Hello again. Right, I'm back again. This is picture 3. It should be appearing round about now, in the bottom corner. This is roughly taken from what would have been my garden wall over the canal. As if you look down to the left, what you can see is obviously you can see the canal, the railway bridge, you know, and there's a little bit of wall with a bit of graffiti on still, and kind of like a little island as well, which is just there, which is all grassed over. And this is what I wrote about this particular picture. This is taken a little further down our street, probably in our garden or just on the edge of our garden. The buildings in the far background are typical of the type occupied by the steelworks. Typical, you know, black roof. You can see where the windows and the little bit of footbridge, you know, to walk over it. This is what I remember mainly about the area of Sheffield. These just seem to stretch for miles. Now they don't seem to make everything look so dull and dark around them like they used to. Everything was in black and white. Thinking about it, I mean, you only had to walk down our street and walk down the canal for a long way, and it was just typical. It was just all black steel buildings. So everything, as I remember as a kid, always used to be like dull, like a dull colour, all grimy. Another thing that hasn't changed either is the railway bridge. It was, from what I can remember as a kid, it was never that busy. I've never remember seeing a passenger train at all. It was always freight trains, always the wagons. It was always like class 47s, class 37s, 39s, and you know, like the DMUs, like the little locos. And because I loved trains as a kid, you know, as soon as I heard it, that was it. I'd run to the edge of the wall, you know, and start waving, try and get the driver to wave back, and then just watch the wagons constantly go past. It's just a source of, I don't know, I think I spent most of my Saturdays and Sunday afternoons, and I don't think there was that many trains, but just waiting for it. Yeah. It looks a bit. It looks a bit like a footbridge, really. When you look at it, it looks quite thin, but it was actually quite wide. There was at least 2 tracks on it. When you go on the top part, where on the previous picture where the bridge was, if you walk up to where the pub is, the Fox House, you can look down the track, and it was quite wide, really, and with like full power lines running its length as well, which you don't see much. Underneath the bridge, there's a footpath. You can follow this, and it'll take you all the way along the canal, right to Tinsley, and I suppose, you know, from then on we're other than where you get to Tinsley, obviously you get the you know, the locks and the other bits. I used to walk this as a kid with my dad. You know, Sundays we used to you know, go over there. It was just great. It was just such, you know, brilliant. Just walking along it, and there was all the same sort of thing, all the steelworks all on one side. I mean, I've actually written here. Underneath there is a footpath. If you follow this, it will pass old stone bridges carrying traffic over the canal. On the left-hand side, the bank was taken up by more, you know, steelworks, taking up so much of the canal bank. It seemed to be like, you know, one long dirty building stretching its rear right to the moving, you know, right as far as you could see. And if you looked inside, because some of them, you know, you could see through the windows, or they had big doors open, you could see the big ceiling cranes as well going over. And the ceiling cranes could be heard almost constantly. As to, in the end, you'd forget about it, and then all of a sudden you'd hear another drop in a steel, or another load of like slag being dropped, and then it'd remind you again. Half a mile beyond here, the noise would gradually start to fade, and the water would change from being an orangey yellow to a more clearer colour, where you could find fish. This is obviously where the land you know, which was taking you towards Tinsley. A huge part of the land at Tinsley used to be blackened by steelworks, hardly recognisable now, where the double motorway bridge. Obviously, it's because you've got Meadowhall, you know. And I mean, I remember seeing it before, and it was just like I said, just when you stood on the bridge, you could just see a roof of old steelworks, most of them derelicts, and then, you know, some knocked down. And I remember when I went back, I think as I was going to take these photographs, and it was the first time I'd seen Meadowhall. It was the first time I'd noticed everything had been flattened and gone. But that's one thing I kind of always remember, was just you know, the long line of steelworks, the cranes, and the banging of the hammers as well. The steel hammers constantly bang, 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 just shaping steel 24/7. And it was when I went back, I couldn't figure out what it was. Something was really, really weird. I found it was a quietness. It was just so quiet because you didn't have the hammers anymore. Where the school is, there is actually a hammer there as a monument. They put it, and they put a plaque on it saying, you know, this is you know, what it was, and you could constantly hear these, you know, flattening the steel and shaping the steel as it was coming through molten. and I think that's the first time I ever saw one. I always hear, always used to hear them, and I remember at the bottom of the street where the steelworks used to be open, and you could see the pots going across on the cranes full of molten steel. So anyway, that's picture 3. There's not lots I can tell you really, apart from that's what that was the view from our wall really, and not a lot of it's changed apart from it's a lot greener. You got the grass on the side and the grass bank. That grass bank actually, that's kind of in the canal. That used to be like a mass of steel and rock. As I'll mention later on, there used to be I think it was like a forklift or something on the front of it. It used to push all this steel just into the canal because it was just yellow and green and just a horrible colour. I mean, kids used to swim in it, but I don't think it was that healthy. Anyway, that was picture 3.